I am thrilled today to welcome, this is kind of a personal one for me, my own doctor, Dr. Marcus Cirelli, to talk to us a little bit about how, people sometimes call me the Energizer Bunny and I have energy to go for days, but I do that very strategically because I invest in my health. And in order to give good service, we have to be able to be healthy, support each other. And so today's episode's a little unique in that it's going to be talking more about things you can do for you to help spill over into your child nutrition programs. Welcome everyone to our podcast. Today, we're sitting with partners in school nutrition, diving into actionable inspiration to provide you not only ideas, but strategies for success. I'm your host, Maureen Pisanick, and I'm thrilled to explore this topic with you and with some of our school nutrition friends. Hey,
thanks for having me.
How are you? Thanks for coming, Marcus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first of all, it is a little different. So normally, we're talking NutriSmart Snacks is geared towards all things school nutrition. But I often say, the more you model that as a person, as a human, and humanize that approach in schools, the more positive you're going to have that outcome. So we say health is wealth, and you have been on this journey with me. I'm going to be honest. I'm middle-aged, right? I'm coming to you with all kinds of weird 50-year-old women questions. But, besides just the focus on really learning, I'm a dietitian, but I focus in on your level of expertise because functional nutrition and whole foods is an important topic that I think they didn't teach me when I went to CASE in the 90s. I'm a little older than you, my friend. And so I'm a humble servant of listening and learning all the time. And you and I have really grown as a doctor patient because I'm a sponge. I try to be a sponge and listen to all these things. So when I came to you and said, hey, I do this work in schools and, we're trying to get more whole foods in schools. We talk about this year being the release of the new Dietary Guidelines. And I try to go in and be a wet blanket on the anxiety. People are like, oh my gosh, the pyramid's flipped upside down. What does this mean? And so, as a person that talks to folks about health and whole foods, what is your perception of the new Dietary Guidelines as it can relate to really inspiring people, not freaking them out about what they put on their plates?
Yeah, and I think you and I talked about this the other day when you came in. This is the way humans have always ate until about 1970 when things kind of started to change. 1970, you started to see the food pyramid shift more towards processed foods. So 70s, 80s, females started to go back into the workforce. So the convenience was really factored or geared towards women, right? Let's make your life easier. So let's give these processed foods and make it so you don't have to spend all day in the kitchen, right? But then you also see this big marketing shift towards kids where hey, we're getting more fast food marketing towards kids. We're getting more convenience marketing towards kids. So the 1980s where you really started to see this big push where okay, now we're really going for convenience, we're for the processed foods. So before that 1970s, 80s, it was all people ate at home, people cooked at home, people ate fruits and veggies and meats and eggs and steak and butter. So it's really not a new change. It's just flipping out what things have been converted to over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah. So I say it's like fashion coming back in style.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah. It's like it used to be the way folks did. And then there was something that shifted. And in schools, I think you pull out a great example. I thought schools were chugging along doing better. And then you and I have known each other. I knew you before you had your little baby. So now you're a parent. So you're looking at it from a different lens when 100%. I come to you and talk about how we feed our kids.
Absolutely.
So before COVID, the C word, we had this plan and we had whole, foods in scratch cooking, speed scratch cooking, harvest of the month programs, local food sourcing. You and I would celebrate all those wins. You're like, man, this is great. You'd go to farmers markets with your own little family and that's how you
that's how we choose to eat. And
that's how you choose to eat. So you're like, this is great. Then something hits and something shifts. And so we talk about the new dietary guidelines not being new, but being a refocus on where in schools during that time where everybody was just reacting, lots of convenience, lots of individually wrapped things, lots of things that were just heat and serve or just grab and go. How to really reshift and think about not being threatened by the new dietary guidelines, but thinking about small wins. So you and I have talked about our Eat the Rainbow program, the produce bars. If you do nothing else, do not serve a blue applesauce cup to a child.
Correct.
Because it has what in it?
The food dyes and everything else and the sugars that we should be eating anyway. Adults or kids shouldn't be eating.
Right. And you talk about what's the difference in the nutrition of an apple and when you can, a local one that's picked in season and it's got its peak versus something that you would choose to serve. And so, when we talk about the shifts and the dynamics of the decades of nutrition, I feel like we lost some ground and we're trying to gain it back. And so from a standpoint of the new dietary guidelines, the other thing that I know you and I talk about, because, I'm trying to get those grams of protein, and I promise you, I'm really trying. I'm working on it every morning. I wake up and I think, how many grams do I need by the end of the day? Because, I'm of that age where it's not only for my muscle mass, it's for my metabolism,
brain health,
it's for my brain health. Thank you, because I use this noodle a lot in the work I do. When we talk about the focus of the new dietary guidelines and protein, and trying to make that protein the best form it can be, what do you think are opportunities schools should really focus on? I know many of us are back to using the produce bars, and now we're looking more to the center of the plate. Talk about what you see as best focus and best healthfulness, as your growing functional practice does serve pediatric.
Correct.
So talk about even what you would share with the parent at home. What are good proteins to really get in front of your kids? Yeah,
the least processed, the better. So meats is a great source, whether that's red meat, chicken, pork, anything that comes from a meat standpoint. Beans are fun to eat. Beans are a good source of protein as well. There's a lot of like ups and downs with beans. Some people hate them, some people love them. But I think they're a fine source as long as that's not your only source of protein. And again, there's other sources. I mean, you can get things from protein powder and stuff like that. But when it comes to school lunches, focusing more on that meat, I think is going to be the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
And that's where you kind of see more of that shift, is we're trying to get back to that higher protein type diet. A lot of kids eat way too many carbs, so balance it out with the protein's a good thing.
Right. And so one of the focuses we work on schools, and before the dietary guidelines and the meal pattern that is dictated by the dietary guidelines would have a very carb heavy breakfast. And you tell me the opposite personally for me, and that's how you feed your family, the opposite. Starting your day with protein is important for a lot of reasons. Can you give us like 3 reasons why schools should look at protein for breakfast, that they can tell their school why they're choosing to focus on proteins for breakfast?
So protein's going to help balance the blood sugar. That's kind of the biggest thing, especially in kids. This is important because if you start your breakfast, let's say with like oatmeal or cereal, something like that, blood sugar is going to go up and that's going to crash. And then when that crashes, kids are going to get more irritable, and get more moody. They're not going to pay attention. So we talk about like ADHD, focus, concentration, memory. One of the worst things a kid can do is eat carbs for breakfast, right? So protein's going to keep that more balanced, more stable. It also, in tune, is going to help balance neurotransmitters. So brain chemicals like serotonin and dopamine, which also help with concentration and focus and things along that line. And on top of that, the protein's also going to help just the brain in general. So we can have more, again, kind of go back to focusing, but it's also going to help the immune system. It's going to help with hormone production. So we want that to keep the kids, again, just more stable throughout the course of the day. And I see parents making this big mistake. Hey, we're having French toast, we're having waffles, we're having cereal. The oatmeal is that, again, carb heavy, and then they get these crashes. And I don't understand why my kid can't stay focused in school. Well, it all starts with breakfast.
Oh yeah, behavioral outbursts, the hangry moments.
Correct.
That and I think, you taught me this, the big functional connection that I think the field of functional medicine that people need to know a little bit more about is your gut is connected to your brain. Talk a little bit about that, because if something's off and funky with your gut, you're not going to be thinking and firing on all cylinders up there. If you really.
Right. Yeah, your gut is your second brain. This has been very well researched over the last 20, 30 years. A lot of research has been dumped into this. A lot of money has been dumped into this. So a lot of your neurotransmitters, your brain chemicals, are actually made in your gut. 90% of your serotonin, 50% of your dopamine. So if we're off here, if we have an imbalance of the good and bad bacteria, and depending on the person, kids are different because they're younger, but for an adult, somewhere between 100 to 300 trillion bacteria in there. So there's a ton. So if we have an imbalance, if we take too many antibiotics, if we eat the wrong foods, if we're under too much stress, alcohol, menopause, different things can shift that microbiome. You can see, okay, now we're not getting that production of serotonin and dopamine the right way, and that directly impacts the brain. On top of that, we have other things like thyroid hormones made in your gut, testosterone is made in your gut. So from a hormone standpoint, that can also impact adults as well.
I feel like you're looking through me. You said stress, you said alcohol.
All the good stuff in life.
Sleep, all the things he reminds me of that I need to do and think of. But it starts even at the kids, right?
Absolutely,
So, and not only, one of the things that I try to talk with schools is, we talk about foods that are prebiotic and probiotic. So, a lot of times folks get this mental block, like, oh, functional is all like all the supplements you have to take. And you've always promoted, get it from your food.
Absolutely.
And so talk a little bit about when you're incorporating a menu cycle, what might look like a prebiotic or a probiotic offering that is kid friendly, because it's not nutrition unless they eat it, right?
Sure.
So your little baby eats wonderfully because she's been exposed to great cooking and great care. And but we could sometimes inherit kids that are used to that Fruity Pebble breakfast, no offense, you know, the colorful, the carb heavy, the sugar laden. And so when we offer them something different, it takes them a lot of exposures and supports. But how about prebiotic, probiotic? What do you think? What are some things schools should start thinking about placing in exposure?
Yeah, so from a probiotic standpoint, probably the easiest thing would be like a yogurt, right? A lot of kids are okay with that. They're going to consume those things. Obviously, trying to get one that's not laden with sugar would be great, but yogurt is a fermented food, so that's a good thing to help feed that good gut bacteria. I would love to see more like sauerkrauts and kimchi and things like that in the kids' diets, but those are hard foods to get because of the taste and the sourness, and most kids won't eat those things.
Yeah.
But all really fruits and veggies contain some kind of form of prebiotic, which is the food for the probiotics. So if you can get more of that in the diet in general, you're going to help feed that good bacteria no matter what.
Right.
But yeah, even small ones, like I'm not a huge fan of kombucha, but hey, it's a fermented food, something else that kids could have in their diet that would help out too.
Sure. Sauerkraut. I mean, we are in Northeast Ohio, so like we do some like ethnic foods, and today we're having a cooking and conversation, and they're making cabbage and noodles. But I love the idea of global on-trend flavors, and not just saying it, meeting folks where they're at. And so maybe the older students, like a kimchi is a nice spicy blend, like for those folks that don't know what that is, but the process by which it's fermented, it does help that good bacteria without, people thinking the only way I can be healthy is if I line up my supplements every day and take them. It's just getting it into the routine. And I think you and I were talking about that. I'm like, something's off with me. I think I'm going to go buy some Cleveland Kraut, just adding those. Once you know, right?
Correct.
I love that. And one of the other things I will say, when you talk about nutrition and health as well for adults now. I mean, I know we're all working with kids, but we model that. Like what we do as parents, what we do as staff in a school, those sorts of things are all things that we model all the way throughout. I feel that wholly. Tell us some best tips as modeling. Like, what do you think are some good habits for us as adults to just think about on a big picture? Because one of the things I love about you is you are not you're not a Band-Aid doctor. You are what's going on? Let's get to the root cause of this and really get to the fix before it becomes an issue. And I think as a society, when we embrace that mentality, why do you cut up fresh fruits and vegetables for kids? Why do you try to seek local procurement that's healthier? There's a why behind that, because you're preventing something from happening that in the absence of that could become a real issue for us as society, right?
Yep. And this food is medicine, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. So what you eat directly is going to impact everything in your system, good and bad. So I'm a big fan of, obviously, like you said, sourcing things locally. It's going to be more nutrient dense. It's going to be better for us, better for the local environment, better for the farmers that are local too. But really, like from a modeling standpoint, trying to focus on those real whole foods. I think that's the biggest thing, most important thing. Shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, staying away from the center section, avoiding all the stuff that's processed, that's inflammatory for us. So I think that's kind of like the biggest step. And I always joke around, my wife's probably going to kill me if she's listening to this, but she wanted ice cream the other night. And I'm like, we shouldn't go get ice cream, because then our kid's going to see that and she's going to want that and then crave it. And then we're setting her up for failure, basically. So I think just starting again with that real whole foods is kind of the easiest place to start. Cooking at home is also a great place. That way you're actually, what's going into your food. You can control the ingredients, you control what's going in there. So I think that's a great place to start as well.
Get yourself a Ninja Creamy or something. You can make your own ice cream, Marcus.
That's
Come
true.
on. You do practice what you preach, though. So you and I banter about health, but we also, we're realists. You're in the kitchen.
All the time.
You're shopping the farmer's market. You're trying these things, you're living it, and you're trying to raise a child in this way too. So, one of the things I love about having conversations with you is that you make me want to be a better version of what I know. I mean, we all know that ice cream is tempting.
Yeah, it's great. It tastes great.
That stress management, I need to keep my cortisol down, and the way to do it is not, to drink alcohol. So, you've taught me a lot of things, and I'm a humble learner about prioritizing proteins in breakfast and things. I wonder if there was any bit of questions like school nutrition professionals have. One of the things that I'll end on is there are a growing amount of kids that we serve that have allergies and intolerances. And one of the ways Pisanick empowers schools is we really want the menu to be transparent, where a parent can look at those allergens and they can look at attributes. One of the things that we hear school professionals say all the time is, when I was a kid, there weren't this many allergies. And so you and I have talked about that. And it's really important to not only invest in the quality of your school nutrition foods, but be transparent. Help your consumers, your school community understand what you have, because there are a lot more.
Oh, absolutely.
Intolerances. Yep. And intolerances are a thing. We know that there are the 9 allergens that are anaphylactic. Yep. They're recognized by the American Disabilities. We have to accommodate for them. But there are a whole lot of other things you're seeing because of the food we eat as a society. And
that all starts as kids too. Mm-hmm. When kids are born, their guts are leaky for a reason. So that's one of the things that like you need to work on sealing that back up. So people have probably heard like leaky gut before. Mm-hmm. That's a real thing in kids, and for a reason. So for my daughter, for instance, one of the first foods we introduced was bone marrow. Mm-hmm. And then we also put in meat stock, because that's one of the best things a kid could eat to help seal that gut up. So when they do come in contact with a peanut or a shrimp or something that's a known allergen, okay, that's not going to leak through the gut. It's not going to get to the immune system. Immune system's not going to overreact. And then we get these food allergies that are lifelong too. Mm-hmm. So it kind of all starts as a baby, making sure we're doing the right things for these kids. Yeah. And there's a lot of lack of education around this too.
Right. I mean,
it's something that most parents have no idea. Pediatricians aren't going to talk to them about this. They just don't know.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time today. We end our podcast every time with a funny question. Yep. And I don't know, I'm really going to put myself out here because we talk about a lot, but I've never asked you when you were, you come from a foodie family. Yep. So, and we talked about like the 7 fishes for Christmas Eve. Like we have some, common food love language. When you were a kid, did you buy school lunch? Did you eat school lunch?
My mom packed majority of the time.
Okay.
But Bosco sticks were my favorite. I hate to admit that now. I'd probably never touch one now, but Bosco sticks were my favorite. That's one thing we had. The menu would come out like, oh, okay, on Friday we're having. Okay, I'm not gonna pack that day. But yeah, my mom definitely cooked a lot. That was something that was great. So I'd say probably 95% of the time we actually packed lunch.
Yeah. So you're blessed to have that. Yeah. Good mama. Yeah. But also, inspiring people to think about the food, where they source it, and actually to get back in the kitchen. Yep. Because you're not a doctor that's going to say, here, follow this plan, and here are a million supplements. You're like, let's talk about what your real life is like. Yep. Let's talk about food. Yep. Let's talk about making it a part of your family's experience. You don't make a different meal for your daughter than you eat.
Absolutely not. No, and that's how how I was raised too. Mm-hmm. My mom would never do that for us. That's one of those things, and I'm not gonna make her something else. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt to do. Number one, and number two, like she should be eating these real whole foods.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Well, today's episode was a peek behind the curtain that keeps Maureen ticking. Yeah. I thank you for my own health for you being a partner in that with me, and I look at ways to really bring functional knowledge and information into the meal programs we serve. And for anybody who's looking for a great functional doctor, I got a guy. Yeah. So we will provide information if you're interested in more information. Talk your business title and where people can find you on the web.
Yeah. So Balance Holistic Health Center. We're located in Brecksville, Ohio. That's our website, balanceholistichealthcenter.com too.
You're saying that fast. Balance
Holistic Health Center. So we're in Brecksville, and then that's our website as well. And then on social media, I'm at Dr. Marcus Cirelli. So I'm trying to put information out for people and for parents all the time.
Awesome. Well, it was great to be with you here
today.
Thanks for having
me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.